I had thought that those children held in cages would be cowering in fear. But to my surprise, one of the boys showed incredible calmness and bravery, even taking the little girl with him when he tried to escape. His actions formed a striking contrast with his fragile appearance, forcing me to look at him in a whole new light. Chapter 50. Lillian thought she was imagining things. After Blasius had left, the witch loaded her with so much silver Lillian could barely feel her neck anymore. She had lost track of how many silver shots the witch had stabbed in her neck. Flashes of hot and cold racked her body, and the burn in her cheek where Blasius had slapped her with his magic itched like crazy. She had stopped feeling her legs long ago. The trickle of blood had formed a pond around her chair. Blasius had stabbed her in a way that kept her awake but weak, and that was scarier than him stabbing her in the first place. The scent of her own blood was thick in the air, and the sluggish beat of her heart rang in her ears. Her head lolled to the side. She just wanted to rest, sleep, but the throbbing pain and the noise were too much. Noise. Lillian blinked, her eyes open, and looked around. Her breathing was heavy and loud, but under it all she could clearly hear the sound of "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." What in the world was happening out there? Then the door burst inward, flying out of its hinges. Noah. Lillian blinked hard. Was she imagining things? She took a deep breath, and beneath the blood and silver and pain, she could clearly smell Noah. Her heart picked up. He was running inside towards her, his face a mask of calm before the storm. "Noah," Lillian whispered, still unable to believe her senses. He crouched in front of her, his hands hovering and his eyes flickering all over her body, lingering on her cheek and her neck and her legs. He took a deep breath, his eyes glowing in angry amber. "You're alive. You'll be fine. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." More to himself than to her. His hair was ruffled and messy, the scars standing out more than usual in his face. The twins. Her throat dry. Safe? The twins are safe. Lillian's chest shook with a relieved breath. Her shoulders slumped. Thank God. Harvey and another vampire. Lillian remembered her from the senator's house. Dragged the guards who'd been posted outside her or into the room. Noah took hold of the chains binding her to the chair. His skin hissed against the silver, but he didn't seem to care. He cold, his arms straining and muscles bulging from the effort. "They're silver," Lillian said. "Stop." Harvey was looking through the dead guard's clothes. He glanced their way. "They're made to withstand shapeshifter's strength." "Noah, wait. We'll find the key." Crack. The chain broke into two. Harvey and Salma looked at Noah with wide eyes. "Never mind the keys. Then," Harvey mumbled. Noah pulled the chains off of her. As soon as her arms were free, Lillian hugged him, burying her face in his neck. Tears sprang to her eyes. He smelled like home. "I'm sorry, baby." He rubbed her back and kissed her hair. Pulling back, he looked at her thighs. "Should we take them out?" Salma asked, coming closer. "The wounds won't heal quickly because of the silver, and the knives might be the only thing keeping the wounds from bleeding profusely." "They'll heal," Lillian said. "Silver doesn't affect me as it does a normal immortal." The three stared at her. Lillian smiled a little. "Blasius is very happy about it. But the bones are broken. I won't be able to walk." Noah closed his eyes. His wolf pushed forward, and despite the silver, Lillian could almost feel a wave of crushing fury. He shook his head, opened his eyes, and looked at the daggers. "Wait," Salma said, running to take the T-shirt of one of the dead vampires. She ripped it in two, coming to stand over Lillian, and nodded at Noah. "Go." Noah took the two daggers, his face tightening, and pulled out. Lillian grunted in pain. Blood poured out of her legs. It seemed like every drop left in her body gushed there. Salma pressed the two lengths of clothes to the wounds, stemming the bleeding. The fabric instantly darkened with blood. Lillian hung her head, dizzy and faint. Noah brushed back her hair, his hand a soothing balm on her skin. After a few minutes, the pain subsided and she opened her eyes. Looking at the wounds, I think it stopped. The three all looked doubtful, but Selma removed the makeshift bandages. Noah wiped the blood away. The wounds had stopped bleeding. They weren't healed. The wound was still glaring, the muscle beneath it torn and the bones broken, but it had stopped bleeding. Well, Selma said, her brows raised. You're quite a successful experiment. Noah growled. Lillian put her hand on his. Selma winced. No offense. Lillian smiled at her. None taken. Lillian's legs were still numb. Noah picked her up, cradling her to his chest. Lillian sighed. How come she instantly felt safe with him even when they were still in the lion's den? The ground shook. Harvey groaned. That must be Arthur. Let's go before Blasius comes to get his hostage. They went out. The hallway outside was empty. Wait, Lillian said, squeezing Noah's shoulders. What about the other children? We'll get them, Harvey said. Let's get you out of here first. Ezra said something about a boy and a girl. Two, Lillian said, making Harvey frown. But there are others. Babies. I don't know how we'll be able to get them out of here. Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lillian pointed to a door down the hallway, the opposite direction of where they were going. Harvey and Selma ran there. They stood at the opened doorway and stared, wide-eyed. My God, Selma whispered, her hand covering her mouth. Harvey's face thundered. He looked at Noah. You go. We'll take care of the rest. Noah nodded and ran, pushing through the door on the other end. But the children, they'll get everyone. Baby, Noah said. Let's just get you to safety first. Lillian tightened her arms around his neck. The sound of fighting was loud in the night. Police sirens rang in the distance, and the ground shook every so often. Lillian felt flares of dark and powerful magic in sync with the earth tremors. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah darted through the dark woods. Wind blew past them. Trees blurred and scent mingled. Lillian drew in a deep breath, grateful for being alive and outside again. No security perimeter, Lillian asked, wind swallowing her words. Blasius must have pulled everyone back to base. There's no use in a security perimeter when the location is compromised and the enemy is Arthur. Noah said. His best ticket was taking you hostage to Fasafa's hand to let him go. But now you're out. Lillian bit her lip. The other children. Harvey will get them, Noah said. Don't worry. But she did worry. No child deserved to live like this. There was nothing she could do. However, she rested her head on Noah's shoulder. She should believe the others would get them out. Lillian didn't know how long Noah ran, but her legs felt slightly better, and her body was burning off the silver so fast she could smell it in her sweat. They met 3 of Arthur's vampires and Elle down at the bottom of a hill. Elle pointed to a boulder, and Noah set Lillian there. Elle slipped off her jacket and wrapped it around Lillian. The tank top Elle wore underneath revealed an old scar on her arm. Lillian wondered how she got it. Noah asked Elle. Elle looked over her shoulder, her eye glowing. HES coming. Noah hovered over Lillian. She took his hand and squeezed. I'm fine. You should go. She looked at Elle. You two. They might need you. Noah pursed his lips. He glanced behind him as another tremor shook the ground. Go, Lillian said firmly. He wanted to stay with her, but he also wanted to make sure the other children would make it out safely. That was why she loved him. Get the other kids out of there. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Frustrated, and kissed her, giving the vampires a warning look. He ran out. Elle unstrapped one of her daggers and gave it to Lillian. Lillian held the weapon. Even though she had no idea how to use it, it was comforting. "We'll be back." The two disappeared. Two vampires stood over her, scanning their surroundings, and a third disappeared in the trees. But Lydian could still smell him close by. Her hand tightened on the dagger, and she prayed Noah would be back safe and sound. Noah's POV. Noah and Elle were in the old hospital in minutes. Tracking Harvey's scent, Noah led the way through the hallway, walking past the room Lydian had indicated earlier. He peeked inside and froze. Babies. Hundreds of babies lining the wall behind thick glass. "What the?" Elle whispered next to him, her face illuminated by the glow of the pale blue which the babies floated in their separate glass boxes. "How in the world will we get them out of here?" Taking a step into the room, spells were drawn in dark red on the surface of the glass, and Wolf picked up on a hint of a dark, unpleasant energy, some form of blood magic. Elle's hand tight and around the hilt of her sword. Why did she have to leave this kind of legacy? She whispered, referring to her mother. Noah shook his head. "Let's go. We can do nothing for them now." They went around the hallway. A few vampires and witches lay dead on their way. Two doors. One led to another part of the ground floor. Noah peeked through the glass panel. There were dozens of immortals, all armed and coming in and out through the front door. Noah tracked Harvey's scent to the other door. This one led to the second floor. The sound of fighting traveled down. Elle and Noah dashed up the steps. Salma and Harvey were pressed against the wall of a hallway that curved to the left. Salma peeked around the hallway, and a bolt of red magic flew past her head, missing her by a glance. Elle and Noah pressed against the wall next to the two vampires. The red bolt was out of existence as it hit the wall, leaving behind a hole that was slowly expanding, as if acid was eating at the wall. "Good timing," Harvey whispered, blood trickling down one arm. "We could use some of your fire." "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Do you need line of sight? Are there allies there?" Elle asked. Harvey shook his head. "Not in the hallway. But the rooms might have the children." "That's fine. It'll only fill the hallway." "Fill it with what?" Salma asked. Elle's magic flared and of blue fire spread in the corridor around the corner. Noah turned his head away, feeling the heat of Elle's flames. Screams were quieted down as Elle's fire died. "Right. She'll fill it with fire," Salma mumbled. "Why did I even ask?" She peeked at the quiet hallway. "All clear." Stepping into it. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "It's still hot. It'll cool down," Elle said. Following her, they ventured into the steaming hallway. Sweat beaded Noseface and trickled down his back. Surprisingly, the floor and the walls looked untouched except for some spots darkened with soot. Elle's control had gotten a lot better. Piles of ashes littered the hallway. A chill ran down Noah's spine. To think that only seconds ago that pile was a living, breathing person. They pushed open doors as they walked on. The rooms were empty except for beds and some hospital machines. Ahead of Noah, cursed as he looked into a room. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Noah joined him. The room's walls were lined with silver cages from floor to ceiling. He smelled the twins' faint scent, and over it the smell of two young lives. The smell was confusing. They weren't human nor witch nor vampire, but an odd mixture of the three. "The children must have been here," Noah said. "Damn it," Harvey said. "They got them before us." They separated it again and checked all the rooms on the floor, but there was no trace of the kids. "Should we check the other floors?" Salma said, coming out of another empty room. Elle sucked in a sharp breath. "Standing in the middle of the hallway. There's no need." Her face outraged. "There with Blah's eyes." Outside. She spun around and strode back the way they did come from. Harvey and Noah shared a look and followed her. She looked the angriest Noah had ever seen her. Her magic was almost a pillar of heat around her. They went down the way they'd come up, except they found more people down on the ground floor. Elle swiped her sword, never breaking stride, sending an arc of blue fire forward. It cut through the witches before they even had the chance to move. Elle paused and shook her head. "You're overextending yourself," Harvey said, walking beside Elle, his eyes on her. "I'm fine," she gritted out. They went out through the back door and around the building. Vehicles were turned over, smoke coming out of their engines. Broken crates filled the ground along with lifeless bodies. Noah wrinkled his nose against the stink of smoke and death. As they rounded to the front of the building, light spilled from the hospital windows and the gaping front door, illuminating the flat area and the unfolding scene. Blasius stood near the front door of the hospital, surrounded by 2 rings of immortals, at least 50 armed vampires and witches. Next to Blasius, inside the circle of immortals, was a female which Noah vaguely recognized. "Is that Pauline?" Elle asked, slowly walking towards Arthur and his people, standing in a half-circle around the enemy. "That bitch." Immortals lay broken here and there, some unconscious, most of them dead. But Arthur and his people stood still, not making any move towards Blasius. As Noah got closer, he saw why. Through the circles of immortals, Noah saw that Blasius was holding a little girl to his chest, her legs dangling. Glowing a pale yellow, was an inch from the girl's head. She couldn't be older than 2, dressed in a straight white dress, her hair a mass of corkscrew curls and her skin a deep brown. The little girl simply looked confused. She was some kind of immortal, but Noah didn't know what. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Maybe with the many scents around him he couldn't pinpoint her race, but he had a feeling she wasn't anything ordinary. Pauline, right behind Blasius, had her hand on a boy's shoulder, her hand holding a dagger to his neck. The boy was human, but odd. He was maybe 9 or 10, and Noah wondered just how long had the boy been under Blasius' mercy. His skin was pale and his features hinted at East Asian origins. "If you put a hand on me or my guards, I will end the little girl," Blasius shouted. The glow of his hand intensified. "Just let us go in peace. I don't want to harm her." Why can't he target him with his magic? Noah asked Tal in a whisper as they joined Arthur's people surrounding Blasius. "Blasius is basically hiding behind his men," Elle replied. "Arthur needs a clear line of sight, otherwise he might hurt the kids." Arthur took a deep breath. A tremor shook the ground. "You gave up any claims of peace the moment you touched our young." "Blasius," Arthur said, his voice echoing, "and you still haven't learned your lesson yet. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Blasius smiled a little through the throngs of his people. "You must understand. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What I'm doing is for the good of our people. Don't you wish there was a way to save your own child? All this research and decades of experiments might make immortals stronger, to spare us the pain of losing." "Shut the hell up, Blasius," Elle snarled. "Let go of the children, and you might have some mercy." Blasius laughed. Noah caught a glimpse of the little boy's face through the crowd of Blasius people. His eyes weren't those of a child. Whatever he'd gone through as Blasius' captive had made him mature too soon. The boy's dark eyes were fixed high, on Blasius' neck with an intensity that made Noah's wolf take notice. "That is rich. Coming from the person whose mother started all this," Blasius said. "Your mother left a legacy, Your Highness, and it won't." Several things happened at once. Noah's eyes caught everything as if it happened in slow motion. The boy turned his head and bit Pauline's hand. She screamed, dropping the blade. Wildest turned his head in time to see the boy jump on his back, hang on to him like a monkey and bite down on his neck. Arthur's magic flung Wildest people away from Wildest, and then Coraline. Wildest's glowing hand touched the girl's neck as he tried to shake off the boy biting his neck. Arthur's magic plucked the little girl off Wildest's hands. Elle caught her off the ended her to Solma. Then Wildest's men came to their feet. Scattered as they were, Arthur's people were already fighting them off, but the enemy had the numbers over them. Wolf tore out of him with a loud growl, lunging at a vampire who was heading towards Solma. The vampire spotted him and braced, and they both rolled on the ground. Jaws found the vampire's shoulder, cracking bones and tearing flesh. He felt a burning stab in his side. Another vampire. But Noah didn't let go of his prey. He shook his head as the vampire punched his ears. Noah shook his head and pulled away, tearing apart the vampire's arm. He howled in pain. Noah glanced over his shoulder at his other opponent, but she was fighting off a tall, weary figure. The troll grabbed his opponent's sword as it swung down towards him with his bare hand. With that much force, the sword should have cut through his hand. It only bled. It was as if Hoya's hand was made of stones. He jerked the sword from her grip and hit her with a thorn-embedded club with enough force to send her flying backward. Her eyes wide and her sword glinting with crimson under the moonlight. Noah and Hoya finished off their prey. Noah stayed close to Solma and the child, protecting them from anyone who got closer. Out of the corner of his eyes, he spotted Arthur wrapping an arm around the boy's small frame and dragging him off Wildest. Blood sprayed from the little boy's mouth and Wildest's neck. The boy's eyes caught the light. They were glowing scarlet. Then Elle was there, sinking her sword in Wildest's gut and dragging it upward, slicing through him like butter. Wildest staggered, sending a ring of yellow magic with a wave of his hand outward. Down, Arthur called. He and Elle dropped down to avoid it. Several people as well, but the ring managed to slice several immortals in half, both friends and foe. Wildest didn't care who he hurt as long as he saved his own hide. One of his hands grabbed his bleeding neck, the other hand sending another wave of magic tainting the night to sickly yellow. No one was getting close to him now. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Still holding the struggling boy, slammed his hand on the ground. The crack extending toward Wildest in a blink. Wildest sank in the chasm, his scream echoing in the night. Arthur called. Hoya jumped, sailing overheads as if riding an invisible current, and landed right next to the chasm in the ground. He put his hands in it, mumbling something, and the earth stitched itself together, swallowing Wildest and his screams. With Wildest out and Arthur and Elle's magic, the fight soon tipped to their favor. Most of the enemy soldiers surrendered when they saw the writing on the wall. Harvey and his people gathered the enemy soldiers. Noah went to Arthur and Elle after making sure Solma and the child were safe. The couple were crouching over the boy, Arthur holding him down to immobilize him. The boy's eyes were a crazy red film, his teeth stained with blood and his face gleaming with sweat. Arthur was kneeling on the child's legs, his hands retraining the kid's arms. The vampire lord looked almost scared, his eyes wild. Noah had never seen him this way before. Focus, Kid Elle said, hovering over the kid's face. The boy didn't seem to hear her. Noah was reminded of dominant juveniles losing control over their wolves. He knew how to deal with him. Wolf shoved Arthur aside and sat on the boy, making sure his head was visible. Arthur stood aside, his haunted eyes on the boy who was starting to go red in the face. What are you doing? Elle said, looking between Noah and the boy. He can't breathe. Noah barked once. Arthur shook his head, as if coming out of a trance, and took a shuddering breath. That's good, he told Elle. Now he'll focus on breathing other than his bloodlust. Will it work? Elle asked, frowning at the little boy as he struggled for breath. Her face filled with sympathy. If HES not too far gone, It will work, Arthur said. Otherwise, they'd have to take more drastic measures. Noah kept an ear to the boy's pulse. Archie'd been in his shoes several times before. When dominant werewolves enter their teenage years, their wolves become more erratic as they become stronger and develop their power. This was one of the ways to deal with werewolves who lose control of their wolves. Wait it out and give them something more vital to focus on. Like breathing. The trick was not to choke them to death, but to suppress their intake of air. Loose enough to keep them conscious, but tight enough to make it difficult. Why didn't you try this with me when I lost control? Elle asked. Noah had a feeling she was trying to pull Arthur from wherever his head was taking him. You would have just burnt us to a crisp. Arthur replied absently. This works with smaller individuals better. Individuals who can't attack with our bodies. Slowly, the boy beneath Noah focused on his breathing. His heart rate decreased, and the smell of anger and fear mellowed. A cheer's coming back, Elle said. Arthur leaned his hands on his knees, his face hidden from view. Elle put a hand on his back. She gave Noah a shaky smile. Arthur rose and, without looking at the boy, turned. You'll go check things inside, he said, and walked away. Elle stared after him, a heavy sigh escaping her lips. Harvey and some of his people were leading the stragglers in the building outside to join their comrades in kneeling on the ground with their hand behind their heads. They found a large stock of silver in the old hospital and began osing them up. The boy and Noah stopped struggling. Noah looked down, meeting his eyes, dark brown filled with mistrust and fear. Noah cowled in resist. He gave the boy's cheek a lick, and the boy gave him a weirded out look. Noah's wolf grinned and eased his weight off the kid. Sitting up, the boy slowly sat up, watching Noah warily, as if waiting for him to scold him for moving. Elle crouched next to them. What's your name? The boy didn't answer. Elle smiled. In Elle, the big wolf is Noah. He glanced between Noah and Elle, then looked away, scanning the crowd, looking for the little girl. Elle asked. He glowered at her. Elle just grinned and stood up. Come on, I'll take you to her. She held out her hand. He ignored it and stood on his own, wiping blood off his face. Elle chuckled. I think you and I will get along very well. He followed her, and they disappeared in the busy night. Noah took a deep breath. The scent of death and magic was clogging. Noah, you can go if you want. Harvey called out from a window on the second floor of the old building. We got things under control here. Noah gave a bark and took off. As he ran through the dark woods, he raised his head to the sky and howled. A second later, the twin howls echoed in the air, slightly wobbly. Noah grinned and pumped his paws faster, becoming a blur of black fur. He found Lily right where he left her, still sitting on the rock and surrounded by Arthur's vampires. Her hands disappeared in the fur of the two pups on either side of her. The three looked up, and Lillian smiled, relief written all over her face. Her cheek was burnt, her neck was bruised, and she bled from several spots. But as she raised her head and the moonlight caught her blue eyes, she was the most beautiful person she'd ever seen. Noah licked her face and then the twins, who tried to crawl away from him as usual. Noah grinned and pinned them down with his paws. The twins growled but stayed still, and Lillian laughed. Noah's heart was at peace. He was home. Epilogue 1 week later, Lillian stood next to Elle, watching the twins play with little Lena. The child who'd been in a silver cage only a week ago was running after the two wolf pups, light on her little feet. Ezra spun around. The little girl squealed and reversed her course, running away from him, a big smile on her face. The boy they'd rescued with her sat against a tree, his dark eyes sparkling in the shade. He scowled at the world, his hands picking at the grass beside him. They'd come straight to the pack after taking care of that mess. Lily unrealized they'd been in Haida Gwaii, an archipelago off British Columbia's west coast. She had slept the entire trip to the pack, feeling safe with Noah to watch over them. Did he try to escape again? Lillian whispered. leaning close to Elle. The Fae smiled. Nope. I think he finally realized we're not going to put him through whatever Blasius had. Lillian glanced at the boy. After coming to the pack, he and Lena stayed with Elle. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Charles and the seer in Elle's cabin. Eva had come down here to check on them regularly. The boy had tried escaping their first night here. One of the patrol wolves found him carrying Lena and trying to make it out of the pack. Except HED been heading right to the pack village. Elle was notified, and no matter how much she questioned him about the reason for escaping, he didn't answer. He hadn't uttered a word, if not for the twins confirming otherwise. Lillian would have thought he couldn't speak. The boy had tried escaping a few times after that, but failed. They had picked out Lena's name because the little girl was still too young, but the boy was big enough to choose his own name, and they didn't want to impose an aim on him. Lord knows HED had enough choices ripped out of his hands already. It must be difficult for him to trust. Elle mumbled. Who knows how long he was there. Lena ran right at Lillian and hid behind her legs. The twin wolves went around, and Lillian picked up the little girl with a laugh. Lena had gained weight over the week she had been here. Her cheeks were plump and her dark skin gleamed with a healthy flush under the bright morning light. Her black curls tied into pigtails that bounced every time she turned her head. Are the wolves chasing you? Little I, little Lena. Lillian cooed. She gave her a toothy grin. Wolf. Yes, wolf, Lillian said cordially. Good girl. Lena didn't talk much. Her vocabulary was underdeveloped for a child her age. It was understandable considering the environment she had grown in. But she was learning. Her communication skills improving quickly. Elijah and Ezra shifted and stood butt naked. Mommy, can we take her with us to the lake? Elijah asked. Lena, wanna go swimming? Swim. Lena perked up. The children had been to the pack village a few times, and Lena had developed a healthy obsession with playing in the water. Yes, swim. Lillian set her down. Okay, go ahead, but watch her closely. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And put on your pants. The twins ran to the pile of clothes they de-shed that morning, pulled on their pants, and ran to Lena. She took their hands and walked between them. Lillian nodded at Janet and Colby through the trees, two of the pack warriors standing watch nearby. They'd watch over the kids until they reached the pack village. Hey kid, wanna go with them? Elle called. The boy glared at her and looked away, sitting in his spot. Elle sighed. Arthur isn't going to come down here yet. Lillian asked, sitting on the porch steps. Her legs hurt from time to time, but they were fully healed. Eva couldn't believe it. The silver should have made her legs useless for at least a few weeks. Yet here she was, up and running within a week. Elle frowned. No, HES running away. From what? Lillian asked. She couldn't imagine the vampire lord running away from anything. Elle glanced at the boy. Reminders of his past. I guess. She shook her head. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I think we'll be going home in a couple of days. What about the kids? Lillian asked. Elle leaned on the railing and crossed her arms. We'll take them with us. We still don't know exactly what they are or how they'll grow up. Other people might take interest in them, and they won't be safe for anywhere else more than on Arthur's Island. And the women that Blasius kept there? Lillian asked. I think they found about 20 women. Elle said. All human. A checkup revealed they weren't assaulted. Lillian blew out a relieved breath. What will happen to them? They're still running some tests over them. Elle said. But they'll go back to their lives. And we'll keep an eye on them in case any of them display odd behavior. Lillian nodded. Lena and the boy weren't human. Lena was clearly a mix between a vampire and a witch, which was unusual in its own rights. If immortals of different races gave birth, The child was usually one race or the other, but Lena was both. It remained to be seen how that affected her. But right at the moment, she needed a small amount of blood to survive alongside the normal diet. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. However, was a mystery. He smelled human to Lilian's nose, but there was something else there, beneath the human layer. There was definitely some vampire in him, but that was all. I've a thought that he might change as he grew up. But again, no one knew how he might change. Lilian felt her bond with Noah's spark. She looked around, sniffing the air. He was coming. She rose just as Elle straightened. Noah and Arthur strode through the trees, looking as majestic as the centuries, old firs over them. The boy sat up straighter when Arthur and Noah appeared, following them with the eyes of a mistrustful animal who'd been abused one too many times to trust strangers. Arthur barely glanced the boy's way. Noah looked at the child and raised a brow. The boy looked down, his upper lips trembling in a barely held-in snarl. No improvement. Noah asked her through the bond, hugging her to him. I don't know if it's an improvement, but he didn't try to escape. Ugh. He kissed her hair and pulled back, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Elle and Arthur were engaged in a stare-off. Surprisingly, it was Arthur who looked away first. His jaw clenched. Elle shook her head and stepped closer to Arthur until her side touched him. His shoulders seemed to relax. Any news about the witches? Elle asked. The witch council will be dissolved. Arthur said. What? Elle's eyes widened. Lily unraised her brows. There has been too much involvement from the witches, both in the gate scheme and in Blasius' experiments. Arthur said. The five discussed it with the Phi. Rami, Blasius, Coline, Katrina. They were all high-level figures in the witch community. What about the Shapashetas? Don't you need their approval? Lilian asked. Most Shapashetas don't care about politics as long as it doesn't affect their race. Noah mumbled. What about Tero? Elle asked. Aegeus, the head of the witch council. Aegeus not going to step down without putting up a fight. Arthur shook his head. Right now, Tero is under watch. We can't link him to this mess yet. I bet Aegeus involved in this up to his eyeballs. Elle grumbled. But pictures and videos of the babies and the artificial ones have made the rounds of the immortal communities all over the world. Arthur continued. The witches are being ostracized everywhere. Right now, they will comply with any measure we put down if they don't want to become outcasts. Lilian shivered, remembering the eerie blue glow, the outline of babies in the thick, glowing liquid, the blood spells on the glass. Noah pulled her closer. What will happen to the babies? Right now, I have my people watching over them until my witches figure out how everything works. Arthur said. Did Blasius share any information? Elle asked. Noah's chest shook with a quiet growl, and Lilian felt his cold fury through the bond. Aegeus very gifted on the mental plane. Arthur said. So Marian no Cal didn't get anywhere near his memories or thoughts. Venus will try when she gets here, but it might take her a long time to figure a way out into his mind. Well, see, we managed to get some information out of him through more traditional measures. You mean torture? Elle said. Yes, torture, Arthur said. But Aegeus very protective of his research, and we won't be able to know if he gave us everything or not. Elle glanced at Noah with a knowing smile. I assume you're going to give Noah a run at him, she told Arthur. It was Noah who replied. Of course he will. Arthur raised his brows. You'll have to keep him alive. Oh, I have no intention of ending him, Noah said. Don't worry. Don't you want to turn at him? Elle asked Lilian. Lilian sighed. She just wanted to leave all of this behind, knowing that justice would be served, that those children would live as children should, and that all of Blasius' test subjects would be looked after, was enough for her. That's okay. Noah will be more than enough. She would. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Loved to see Blasius begging for his life. But she knew that Noah would make it happen, and that was enough for her. Hey, where's the kid? Lillian asked, looking past Arthur to where the boy had been sitting only minutes earlier. Elle growled and made a move. But Noah stopped her. I got this. Noah tracked the boy's scent through the woods. He found him a couple of minutes later, but followed him quietly as he weaved through the trees. He was trying to sneak around, and was doing a half-decent job at it. But one could tell he wasn't used to moving around in the woods. Unlike the first time he attempted an escape, he was heading straight to the pack border. But patrol was coming close, having scented the boy. I got him. Noah linked the woman. She saluted him and melted into the woods again. Noah followed the boy for about an hour. He was close to the pack border when Noah finally made himself known, deliberately crunching his feet on the grass to see if the kid's senses were any good. The boy immediately spun around, his eyes zeroing in on Noah in a second. Good senses and good reactions. The boy was no ordinary human, but he needed some lessons in real life. Because he instantly ran away, he should never run away from a werewolf unless he was sure he could outrun him. Noah chased the kid and caught up to him in seconds, grabbing him by the back of his t-shirt. He lifted him off the ground until his face was level with his. The boy snarled, his thin fangs gleaming. He swiped his hands, but his arms were too short to reach Noah's face. Running away again? Noah asked. The boy struggled and snapped at Noah's face. Noah snapped back, his fangs elongated, pushing his wolf forward. The boy froze, his eyes wide and his pulse skittering. You're not taking Lena along this time? Noah asked. The boy didn't answer, just glared at Noah. I know you can talk. The twins told us. So, giving up on Lena and trying to save yourself, in not giving up on her, the boy said, angry. His struggles renewed. Noah stifled a smile. Then why did you leave her behind? Because she's safe here, the kid said, his tongue belligerent. So if you know it's safe here, Noah said, why did you run? The kid pursed his lips and looked away. Stubborn child. Noah lowered him to the ground. The boy was smart enough not to make a run for it again. Let's go, Noah said and walked back. The boy followed him quietly. After a few minutes of walking, Noah noticed the boy was trying to mimic his steps, stepping where Noah stepped and keeping his feet light. I can teach you, if you want, Noah said. The kid startled, glancing at Noah. What? How to walk quietly? Noah said, motioning to the boy's feet. You're already decent at it. You'll learn quickly. The boy scowled and looked down, watching his feet take step after step. Why, he asked in a mumble. Why what? Why would you teach me? The kid asked. It'll make it easier for me to run away. Noah's lips twitched. I guess it will, but it's a good life skill. Teaching a prisoner how to escape isn't very smart. He grumbled. You're not a prisoner, Noah said. The boy coughed. Noah stopped and crouched down. Tell me, do you want them to let Lena go? To leave her on her own? The boy scuffed his shoes on the ground. No, he admitted after a beat of silence. Why? Noah asked. Because she can't take care of herself yet. The kid said. It's the same for you. Noah replied. You're not a captive. They're taking care of you until you can take care of yourself. I can take care of myself, the boy said, standing taller. Noah snapped his hand forward, his claws out, and pricked the kid's neck. The boy froze. Noah retreated his hand and ruffled the boy's hair. No, you can't. You're still small and inexperienced. If you want to take care of yourself, you should grow bigger and stronger. Right now, anyone can kidnap you again and put you in another cage. Do you want that? The boy pursed his lips, but he shook his head once, begrudgingly. Then grow bigger and stronger, Noah said. I can teach you, although that's gonna be difficult since you're traveling soon. But Elle will teach you, and you can come visit me whenever you want. The boy made a face. But Elle is small, and she doesn't look like she can fight. She can beat me, If she uses her magic, Noah said. And without her magic, Noah leaned his head from side to side. Her? It depends. I'm stronger than her, but she's a more skilled fighter. Even if I beat her, it's not going to be easy. The boy squinted his eyes. Still doubtful, Noah straightened up. Your ear, big kid. You should make the smart choice. Let's go. The boy followed. And for once, he looked thoughtful instead of just angry. They found Lily and Arthur in their place. Lillian waved at Elle and Arthur and came closer, and the kid left Noah's side and strode towards Elle. As they walked past each other, Lillian crouched down. The boy stopped, looking wary. Do you want to come to the pack later with Elle? Lillian asked, her smile radiant. We'll have cake, like the one we had yesterday. The boy's scowl mellowed. Faced with Lillian's kind smile, he gave a short nod. Lillian's smile brightened. Good. We'll wait for you. Noah watched the boy move to stand before Elle as Lillian joined him. He straightened his little shoulders and took a deep breath. Teach me to fight, he said to Elle. Elle and Arthur exchanged a look. Lillian and Noah walked away. Lillian leaned close to Noah. What did you tell him? Noah recounted their conversation. Lillian grinned. Good. That I'll keep him focused on something useful. So blows ayas. Noah sighed and threw an arm around her shoulders. Yes. She chuckled and wrapped her arm around his waist. I'm surprised you held up for a week. It wasn't easy. That was an understatement. After everything settled down the night they rescued Lillian, Hoya had the ground regurgitate blows ayas. The witch was unconscious from being buried alive for hours. He was then silvered and chained and transported to Arthur's private cells near Nosepack Land. Arthur had worked on Buzz Ayas in order to get as much in from him as possible, and Noah had stayed away following Arthur's demand. Arthur didn't want Noah to make Buzz Ayas unable to speak or think coherently before they got information out of him. Noah and Lillian reached the Pack village. On the shore of the lake, Violet and Robert were looking over a group of pups splashing in the shallow waters. Violet had taken an interest in pups and would often be found looking after them or just watching them play. And even though she still didn't utter a word, she was one of the pups' favorite people. A group of warriors surrounded Jake near the pack house, discussing something about patrol shifts. Phoebe was among them. She looked their way. Lillian wiggled her fingers in a wave, and Phoebe scowled. Looking away, Noah raised his brows. Even to him, Phoebe's expression looked half-hearted. She mellowed out to you, didn't she? He told Lillian. Lillian chuckled. I think so too, but she hates that she no longer hates me. She visited me when I was in the infirmary, said that our fight should be a few months away since I looked like shit. Noah hummed. You did? Hey, she poked his side, a smile winning over her features. That's rude. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbert. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm surprised you haven't kicked all the transfer wolves out of the pack after what Blake did. Noah growled at the mention of the traitor. They'd found him dead in the old hospital. Apparently, Blasius had drained him dry of blood in order to feed his spells and then killed him because he cowed and risked Blake betraying him to the wolves. No one knew why Blake betrayed the pack. That's not a solution, he replied to Lillian's and asked question. We shouldn't live without transfer wolves. But this made me think that we should review the process. We'll be running more background checks on the wolves, and maybe shorten the trial period. That means we'll have fewer wolves willing to transfer here, but better safe than sorry. Lillian's smile was secretive. Self-satisfaction rolled through the bond. What? She skipped ahead of him and turned, walking backwards. You know, your father would have kicked all transfer wolves out of the pack. Noah paused. She was right. His father would lick them all out, if he kept them alive at all. Noah looked at Lillian and smiled. Maybe, just maybe, he was nothing like his father. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Lillian came close and hugged Noah tightly. What is it? All he could feel through the bond was an intense love and affection that still took his breath away. Nothing, she mumbled against his chest. I just love you. Noah smiled, hugging her back. I love you too. I know. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Mommy, look, Lena is swimming. Noah and Lillian turned to see the twins and little Lena, with half a dozen pups in the water up to their necks. Violet and Robert had gotten into the water too. Lena was swimming like a little puppy, her grin wide and contagious, from one twin to the other. Lillian smiled. I better go make that cake. She looked at him. Don't be late. And don't get hurt. I won't. He kissed her and was on his way. Arthur loomed in front of his dungeon with 3 of his vampires. He nodded at Arthur. We'll give you some time with Blas Ayas. Arthur told Noah. You'll have to be done by nightfall. We're transporting him to the East Coast until Venus comes to check in. I left the cell open. I'm sure you can handle the chains. Noah nodded. Appreciate it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Men, let's go, Arthur said, walking away. One of his vampires lingered, looking between Noah and Arthur's back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. When HES done with him, shortened he lock him in. Arthur glanced over his shoulder at his man. There will not be much to lock. Blas Ayas will stay right where he is until we come for him. Matthias gulped, giving Noah a wary look, then ran after the vampire lord. Noah took a deep breath, his wolf stretching inside of him, and went down to the dark cells. Blas Ayas was chained to a chair in an open cell, sweaty, weak, reeking of silver, but conscious. Good. He glanced up when Noah came in, fear written over his face. But then relief replaced the fear when he realized it was Arthur. Little did he know. It was Arthur whom he should fear more. Oh, it's just you, Blas Ayas said, his voice rough and his lips chipped. One of his eyes was missing. Cuts and scrapes covered every exposed inch of his face, arms and chest. His ribs pushed sharply against his skin. He looked like he lost half his weight. Silently, Noah went around him and held the chains. They burned his skin, and the reminder that Lillian had to endure such a burn under Blas Ayas' mercy was enough fuel to let him break the chains like a toothpick. You're letting me go? Blas Ayas asked, as Noah shook the chains off of him. My Noah took hold of Blas' hair and dragged him. Blas Ayas held onto Noah's wrists in an attempt to ease his hold and struggled. Noah just pulled him along. That was the issue with witches and fae. Most of them relied on their magic too much that they grew lazy in developing their strength and combat skills. You animal, Blas Ayas cried as Noah literally dragged him up the stairs, his legs knocking on the steps, and then outside. Let go. You coward. Attacking a man weak from silver and starvation. Where's the fairness in it? Why don't you come back when I'm with my magicant? Noah dropped him in the clearing outside the once-story building and kicked his stomach. His ribs cracked, the sound loud in the quiet of the forest. Even the animals seemed to have emptied the grounds. Blas Ayas spit blood. The color sparkled under the sun. His hair hung in dark lumps, sticking to his sweaty face. You talk too much, Noah mumbled. Blas Ayas lay on his side and cradled his broken ribs. Noah kicked his shoulder to flip him on his back and stepped on his right thigh. He leaned forward and fixed Blas Ayas with his stare. The witch stopped trying to break free, caught in the snare of the wolf's stare. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care about being fair or honorable, Noah said. Just shut up. Stay still and take your punishment. Noah crouched and took hold of one of Blas Ayas' legs. The witch screamed and raised his upper body, pulling his arm to punch Noah. Noah let him land the punch, then countered with one of his own, holding back his strength. He didn't want Blas Ayas passing out so soon. Blas Ayas' head knocked to the ground, His teeth bloodied and his jaw misshapen. "I told you to stay still. I'm not going to say it again," Noah mumbled. He put one knee on Blasiah's right leg, took hold of his foot and raised it until it bent backward, breaking his knee. Crack! Blasiah's scream echoed in the woods. He tried wriggling away, but Noah increased his pressure on Blasiah's thigh, held his shin and twisted sharply. The knee crunched. Noah strained and pulled. Blasiah's shin separated from the knee. His leg split in two. Tendons and ligaments hung out of the knee and the half-leg that Noah held. "Too loud," Noah said. He held Blasiah's jaws and literally shoved his foot in his mouth, shutting him up. "Take it out, and you'll break your arms." Blasiah froze, half of his leg sticking out of his mouth. "Better," Noah said, then moved to the other leg. He threw it aside after severing it too. Blasiah's whines echoing around them. Blood sprayed Noah's chest and arms, staining the ground around them a vivid red. Blasiah hadn't removed his foot from his mouth. Good. He was learning. Noah crouched over him. Blasiah's eyes were wild and desperate, his fear stinking the air. "Now," Noah said, "let's begin." Arthur stared at the thing that was Blasiah's. It had taken Noah longer than Ichidi expected to vent his anger. The night had fallen, and Blasiah lay in several parts all over the clearing in front of the dark building. Blood darkened the area until it was one big stain, and Noah's skin itched with the dried blood. He rolled his shoulders, eager to wash off the stink. Next to Arthur, a green-faced Matthias and other vampires gaped at the scene. Matthias turned around and threw up. "Is he even alive?" one of the vampires asked, looking around. "Where even is he?" "The main thing is there," Noah said, pointing to where Blasiah's stump lay unmoving, heart still beating and lungs still drawing air. His limbs were scattered around him in pieces, but he was still very much alive. Matthias recovered and squinted. "Wait, in his mouth? Is that his?" "Yes," Arthur replied. Matthias turned again and heaved. "Gotta work on that." "Matthias," one of the vampires said, "the stink of blood and urine is enough. We don't need to add vomit to the mix." "I'm tempted to call Elle here," Arthur said, moving closer to Blasiah. "She will reevaluate her fondness of you if she sees this." "I think not," Noah said. "The bastard ordered the rape of several women and kept children in cages." Arthur considered and nodded. He crouched over Blasiah. "How did you even cut his off?" "I have sharp claws," Noah said. "Do you need help cleaning?" "No, you've done your part," Arthur said, straightening up. Noah nodded and left, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He had just showered off the blood and changed into a fresh pair of shorts when Lydia linked him. "Where are you?" "We're near the lake." "Coming," Noah said, jogging down the steps of his house. The Pack village was alive. People hung around in clusters, laughter and chatter filling the air. String lights sparkled around trees, and a couple of flames hovered right next to the lake where a long table was set up with food Noah could smell from the distance. Jennifer must have cooked tonight. Adults and pups lingered around the food. Noah spotted Charles, Irene and the seer standing next to Mary, one of the Pack's elders. She and the seer were conversing, and Charles and Irene argued in hushed whispers nearby. "Noah," Ezra called, weaving through the adult's legs and barreling towards him. Noah smiled and met him halfway, plucking him off the ground and throwing him in the air. Ezra's blue eyes sparkled like stars. "There's cake." And Elle made fireworks. Noah was relieved to see the twins back to their old self. The experience had no doubt affected them, but he and Lydian would make sure they recovered as much as they could. Elijah ran over, followed by Lena. The little girl was dressed in a pink tutu and a black tee, shirt that smelled like Kate's daughter. She was quick on her feet. Noah threw Ezra on his back. The boy squealed and held onto his neck. Then Noah bent down and picked up Elijah and Lena. "Noah," Lena said, her grin contagious. "That's right," Elijah said. Lena put a little hand on his scarred cheek and tilted her head. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. No, it doesn't hurt. Right, Noah? Elijah said. No, it doesn't, Lillian replied. Coming closer, she took Lena into her arms and smiled at Noah. Did you teach him a lesson? Yes, Noah linked her as they walked toward the crowd. Elijah and Ezra locked arms and were technically fighting right over his shoulder. I made him eat his foot. Lillian sputtered a laugh, her eyes twinkling. No doubt she thought he was joking. He didn't correct her. The table was set up with all kinds of foods and drinks. Elle was standing by the side of the crowd, the boy right next to her. Elias and Jackson peeped from under the table, and the twins climbed down Noah's body and disappeared under the table, joining them. Achia's been following Elle like a little shadow, Lillian said, following his gaze. I think Achia's going to be fine. He and Lena. They had people who genuinely cared for their well-being. Now, Noah still didn't know how Arthur would act around the boy once they were home. But he wasn't worried. He knew Elle. She'd make sure both Arthur and the boy were fine. Lillian poked Noah and nodded her head down. A small hand sneaked from under the white cloth covering the table and picked up the plate of chocolate chip cookies. The plate disappeared under the table, and Noah heard the sound of stifled giggles and crunching cookies. Jennifer came close, holding out her arms. Where's my little Lena? The little girl gladly jumped into Jennifer's embrace. To my agent extraordinaire, wildest, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Jennifer laughed. You love me just because I give you cake, don't you? Jennifer cooed, moving to the head of the table where dessert was set up. People stopped her along the way and gushed over Lena. Lillian leaned into Noah's side, put her head on his chest and sighed, a small smile on her lovely face. Being home sure feels nice. Anna waddled close by, her hand on her belly and her eyes scanning the table. Hey, where are those chocolate chip cookies? The giggles under the table turned hysterical and Lillian laughed, the sound soothing Noah's wolf. She was right. Being home sure felt nice.